And our wintry tale starts here at Duddingston Loch in Edinburgh. And even though it's a cold and frosty old morn this morning, thin ice on the loch, you certainly wouldn't want to be heading onto that loch today. The ice is still very, very thin. But go back a couple of hundred years ago and it would have been a completely different story. During the winter months, this loch would have been frozen solid and the people of the capital would have flocked here to have had fun and even to have skated on the ice.
There's a famous picture which hangs in the National Gallery called The Skating Minister, painted away back at the tail end of the 1700s, and it shows the Reverend Robert Walker skating on the loch. You see, if we go back to around 1550, from then through to 1850, Europe experienced some extremely cold weather, and it was a period known as the Little Ice Age.
Scenes such as the Skating Minister in the winters of 17 and 1800s would have been commonplace around Scotland. With the colder climate, many of the lochs would have been frozen over, and many of the Christmases back then would have been white as well. But of course, even more so before the calendar change. In 1752, Britain decided to follow the rest of Europe from changing from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, which is still the one we use today.
Both calendars were fairly similar, although the old calendar was actually a little bit longer and meant that the seasons started to drift.
The change to the new calendar actually caused a lot of confusion, because to bring the seasons back into line we had to adjust the calendar by 11 days. Now the way around that was for people to go to bed in 1752 on the 2nd of September, and then when they woke up in the morning it was the 14th of September, so they had technically lost 11 days. Now unfortunately at the time a lot of people didn't really understand this simple manoeuvre, and what happened is a lot of people actually thought that they had lost 11 days of their life. They actually thought the government had stolen that from them, so people rioted on the streets, and cheekily landlords still wanted a full month's rent.
Prior to the calendar change, Christmas was celebrated on the equivalent of the 6th of January if you went by our modern calendar system, and some still call this Old Christmas Day. Because we lost those 11 days, it theoretically moved Christmas forward, and it now falls earlier in the winter season than it used to, of course, when snow is less likely. So I think we can safely say that the notions of a white Christmas have been born out of those colder years of the Little Ice Age. Charles Dickens famously wrote A Christmas Carol, which was published in the early 1840s. His early childhood, of course, would have been filled with white Christmases and very snowy winters, and of course he went on to include that in his well-known works.
Ah! Humbug.
Here it is. Of course, it's not just Dickens that nostalgically wrote about his white Christmases. Bing Crosby more recently, his cover of the song White Christmas managed to sell millions of copies all over the world, and he's managed to keep that dream alive for us until today.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Recent climate change has actually meant that the number of snowy days has decreased. However, the 90s and the noughties saw more white Christmases than the 70s and 80s, although I think we can put that more down to luck. If you're the type that likes a flutter at the bookies, then all you actually need is one single flake of snow to fall on Christmas Day. This year, the official observing sites for a white Christmas are Pittodrie Stadium in Aberdeen, Glasgow Cathedral,
And here at Edinburgh Castle. Since 1960, Glasgow has reported 6 white Christmases. Heading further north to Aberdeen, and here there's been 12 since 1960. And even further north in Shetland, they've had an incredible 18 white Christmases. And that means that you've got about a 40% chance of seeing a white Christmas here compared to Glasgow's 13. Well, if you want a guaranteed white Christmas, why not just get yourself some of this artificial snow, and then you'll be in for a real white Christmas. But of course, whether your Christmas is green or white, some people are getting excited already. Have yourself a fantastic time. Come on, let's go and build a snowman.
In other football news, David Wotherspoon has signed a 2-year contract extension at Hibernian, tying him to the club until 2013. The 19-year-old has excelled under John Hughes this season, despite not playing in his preferred midfield position. Well, Hibs are away to Aberdeen tomorrow. Elsewhere, Kilmarnock and Hamilton Accies are at home, while it's the Battle of the Saints in Perth.
There's a belief that we can win football matches. We've got goals in the team, we're keeping clean sheets, we've only conceded 10 goals all season, so that's remarkable. and long may that continue. So that's basically what it's going to take for us to keep the run going.
You know, I think the festive period is always a big time for clubs. I think, you know, after it tells you where you are roundabouts in the league, and it's an important stage for all clubs. But you know, we're sitting pretty healthy in 7th at the moment. We know a couple of wins would, you know, propel us into the top 6, but also a couple of defeats takes us back down the table.
Yeah, they've kept in touch. I mean, they're not out of it by a long way. By all accounts, they've been performing reasonably well, and no, it's a great chance for us. If we get it, that's 3 games where we've taken 7 out of 9. If we can get a result, and I'm sure we'll make the moves upwards, and that gets a bit of momentum going into a busy period.
It's one of these that people say is a nervous game, and it'll be difficult for both teams, but I think you have to rise above that and just go and try to play your football. And if you're good enough to go and take the 3 points on the day, great. If not, you try to adjust things to try to get the next result. But we've got very good games coming up over the Christmas period, and it's up to us to get the points on the board.
We're a young, emerging team, and all we want really to do is just go and be, you know, have a good account of ourselves, be competitive. We're certainly not a negative side. We won't be going there to park the bus in front of the goal. We're a team who want to go and express ourselves and play. We know it's going to be difficult to play in such a hot environment, but a challenge for my players to show that they can play in such environments and on such stages.
I think it's so evenly matched within the teams in the league this season. Similar to last season as well. It's on the day, you know, and taking your chances when they come along, defending properly. That's been a slight problem for us in recent weeks. You know, we've been in winning positions and we've not been able to get the 3 points. So hopefully, if we can get ourselves in that position, we can pick the 3 points up.
I hope this will be a good football game, and I think my player after the game, Hamilton, which one was also Saturday, and very unusually time, 12 o'clock, he learned something, and we do better.